The last thing you want in your novel is weak characters. That's why they should go to the gym, eat lots of protein, and also go to therapy, because being strong on the inside is important too. Today, we're going to go over some signs that the characters in your novel are poorly developed. Some signs that you have weak characters that have nothing to do with their ability to help move a fridge. All right, sign number one that you have a weak character, they always make the optimal decision. This is a case where you don't have a well-developed character, you have a character that's just a vehicle for the plot to happen in a specific way. If a character never makes a bad decision, they never misjudge a situation, they never let their own beliefs or flaws or ego influence what they do in a negative way, that's a sign you really don't have a well-developed, strong character. People are biased based on the experiences they've had. We ignore information and make decisions that often aren't in our best interest because of those biases. It's like, yeah, the logical thing to do when the villain is taunting you while he's got a squad of goons flanking him on either side is not to charge forward and attack him without backup. But your hot-headed young hero doesn't connect those dots and charges into a fight that he can't win. That's a non-optimal decision that the character is making, driven by their characterization. The flaws that they have makes them do something that seems a little bit illogical and definitely is not beneficial. Real people screw up, they make mistakes, they are flawed. Your characters should be doing the same thing. Character flaws are important and they should affect decisions that that character makes. Next sign of a weak character, they fit too well in the mold of their culture or race or nation or species or whatever. There's a trope called Planet of Hats that relates to this, where you have, usually in a sci-fi setting, some kind of alien race who all behave in the same way. They're basically just one collective character. They're all wearing the same hat. In a real world setting, this leads to all sorts of false expectations and prejudices about certain groups of people, which is neither a productive enterprise to engage in nor a reflection of reality, and it just weakens your characters overall. In the case of a sci-fi or fantasy or other speculative setting, it just weakens your overall world building. People, even within some kind of group, are diverse. They might tend to a certain way, there might be certain trends that they follow, but they're still individuals. You can get so much more mileage out of having characters who push back on or even foil completely off of the stereotypes of the group they belong to than you can get by just having every character who's part of that group fit the same stereotypical mold. You can highlight things about the individual character and also the group that they come from by differentiating them from that group or the expectations around that group in some way. It's like, sure, this race of mountain-dwelling elves are known for being pacifist and non-violent, but this one guy, let's call him Shorty, really loves getting the knives out. You can show the character fighting against their culture, which creates a lot of conflict. This character themselves becomes more developed because they aren't just a stereotype, and it reinforces the stereotype of that group, which, if you're doing something that leans into Planet of Hat territory, is something that you want to do anyway. The contrast between what that character is and what everyone expects them to be will highlight and strengthen those expectations along with strengthening the character. Individualization of the characters in your story is really important. Avoiding things like the Planet of Hats trope is a really important way to make sure you're creating strong characters. Next sign of a weak character, they fit too well with the plot, or they don't fit well enough. This is an interesting balance that you need to strike when deciding what plot to put a character into or what kind of character is best for a specific plot. If a plot requires an ultra courageous hero to solve it, having a less brave character be the one who has to solve it will often create a more interesting story. Having the character not fit with what they need to do in the plot often makes a story more interesting and makes the character stronger. At the same time, having some element of the plot that only that character could solve, or something that is well suited for them to solve, can also be really effective. One of the questions that you have to answer, not necessarily directly with your character and plot selection, is why is this person the one who was selected to save the world? It's like, yeah, your skinny, calculus loving nerd is not the best person to sword fight his way through a bunch of goons, but the final boss requires solving a differential equation, so the burlier counterparts to this nerdy character wouldn't actually be a good fit to solve this particular conflict. A strong character, an interesting character to read about, is one who is simultaneously pushed to their limit in some aspects of their personality, but also uniquely suited to solving the plot in other ways. Character flaws are very circumstantial. They can be a help or a hindrance depending on the story that you put the character in. There's that famous discussion or idea, or I think it might have been an essay, where if you take Hamlet and you put him in Macbeth, the story no longer becomes a tragedy because Hamlet is better suited to solving the conflict in that story than he is in solving the conflict in Hamlet. A character can seem weak in a story just because their flaws don't line up well with the plot. This might be because that character is underdeveloped to begin with, but it also might be a sign that they are just the wrong character for that story. They're not a good fit. Next sign of a weak character, they are universally loved or despised. Anything that's likable is polarizing on some level. People will look down on someone for the things they lack, and they will be jealous of someone for the things that they have. A strong character should have enough features and enough attributes, enough history, that other characters have a diverse set of opinions about them. A lot of characterization can come through how other characters interact with that character, how they talk to them, how they talk about them, their body language around them, and stuff like the thoughts that they have about that character. If you find that the other characters in a story don't have strong opinions about a particular character, it's a sign that that character is a weak character. It's a sign that they are underdeveloped. Part of this problem could also be that you aren't communicating the opinion of those other characters enough, or that those characters themselves are underdeveloped, so they don't have the features that would make them have an opinion about the other character. This very quickly becomes a chicken and egg thing, at least in my opinion. Use how other characters interact with a character to help describe that character. Use the opinions that other members of your cast have about that character to make that character stronger, because it will help describe things about that character and add things to their characterization. If you do this correctly, you'll find that the opinions of those other characters will vary quite a bit. They shouldn't be homogeneous. And if they are too homogeneous, then that's a sign that the character might need some strengthening. At least that's my opinion. Speaking of opinions, I would love to hear your opinion on what was talked about in this video in the comments down below, as the video is now coming to an end. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.